Hello, my name is Don Jorgensen. Thanks for joining us today in Issues and Candidates. Today we have the pleasure to welcome Catherine Messner. She is state Senate candidate from this area. Catherine, first of all, welcome, and may I call you Kate?
Yes.
Wonderful. Kate, you have lived and worked in this community for many years, but I suspect that many people do not know your history. Perhaps you could give us kind of a brief synopsis?
Sure. I'm from New Jersey.
Ah, Jersey girl. Okay.
I'm from Jersey. You from Jersey?
Ah,
But I fell in love with New England at a very young age. I used to come up to summer camp here. So every summer as a
where
child.
was the camp?
There was one in Vermont and one in New Hampshire way back when. It's no longer in existence. Neither of them is in existence
Gotcha,
anymore.
gotcha.
But I had a great time at summer camp, and then met a boy, and he was from Vermont.
Those things
So
will
I went to
happen.
college in Vermont. Funny
that will also happen, yes.
I loved the college. Had a great experience there. Really remember worrying, is there life after college? Because it was such a good experience.
Oh, fantastic.
And but yes, there is life after college, I'm happy to say, and I've been healthy and happy since then. I have a wonderful family.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, that college was where?
It's near Burlington, Vermont. It's St. Michael's
A Catholic school.
Catholic College, yes.
So you were indoctrinated early.
I was, and I was not Catholic, so it was fun going to school with the other Catholics, and a lot of them had come from private Catholic
Sure.
high schools, which I had not.
Right.
So it was a different world.
Wonderful, wonderful.
But I enjoyed it very much, and you get quite a bit of morality. There's an undercurrent
Of course,
there,
of
which
course.
is very nice.
Sure. Not bad at all.
Right,
No, absolutely. Now, you've lived here for some time. Do you have any children?
I do. I have 4 children, and they're all in jobs in their fields, successful,
Wonderful.
which is wonderful, and in good relationships. That's also wonderful. So I've been very, very fortunate there.
Wonderful. Excellent. Now, if I understood correctly from a discussion we had a bit ago, you were divorced
Yes.
fairly early on in the family development?
We were married 12 years, and
Gotcha.
then after lots of counseling and 3 therapists, we just couldn't make it work and had to divorce, and divorce is devastating emotionally and financially. But the
everyone,
kids did
including
very
the kids,
well.
huh?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, they've done very well.
Not wonderful you had to go through that, but
Sure.
that they survived
Sure.
it well and you did as well. So
Right.
outstanding.
And I will say to anybody who's in that position, and there are certainly many, it does get better. It's
Okay.
hell when you're going through it, but it does get better.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that would like to hear that too. So let's talk just briefly about your professional background. It's in business.
Yes,
Why don't you give us a little synopsis of that as well?
sure. It's been mostly in small companies, high-tech companies for industry and research, mostly in Massachusetts.
Okay.
That's given me real-world experience. Some of those companies served lots of different industries, so I got a sampling of different businesses in different industries as well.
Oh, great.
I know firsthand from those experiences how difficult it is to hire and train and motivate and retain employees that have a good work ethic.
Sure.
So again, that's real-world experience. I know how difficult it is to make a profit, to bring home some money and have enough to put food on the table and gas in the car. So I think I have a perspective that many of us with the narrower wallets need.
Well, particularly going into the State House, no doubt. So what brings you to the politics now?
I caught the political bug, so to speak, when my son was hired for the field organizer for the Shaheen campaign in '08.
Okay.
So he was the coordinator for our town, and
Great.
I wanted to be the supportive mom, of course.
Of course.
And if you have anything to do with campaigns, you know that they always need phone callers and canvassers. So I volunteered to canvass with him, and that was a great experience. I really enjoyed going into the homes and talking to people And I kind of got bit by the bug.
Now, when you did this, I mean, some of the things that people have talked about in that is, in their experiences relative to canvassing and going door to door and talking to people, is some people are friendly and some maybe not so much. What was your experience?
Yes, that's absolutely true. I think the majority don't follow politics,
Gotcha.
which now bothers me, but at the time, that's not far from where I was. So
Sure.
I was certainly sympathetic,
Sure.
and maybe because of that, I even more so now want to bring people into the political arena and show them how important it is, because it has an impact. It makes a difference who's in there.
Absolutely, no doubt. And I've found the same thing with myself. You know, as you build awareness in yourself, you recognize how important it is for others to have it as well. So, but we'll go back a little bit in your history. Now, you came of age in the Cold War, and at a time when women's rights had taken center stage, and at a time that corporate power was being lauded as great, as being wonderful. How did that impact you?
Women's issues have always been very, very important to me.
Makes sense.
My degree was in English back in college, and I studied under the woman who was the director of women's studies. So I read an awful lot, learned an awful lot about women's studies and about the struggles that women have had over the course of history in participation, in government, in the workplace, in decision-making, career choices, you know, all kinds of things where women have had lesser opportunities than men. So that's always been very important to me, and to this day, you know, I'm very, very pro equal pay for equal work
Sure.
as a result of that kind of upbringing.
And given what you went through in your personal life, I suggest that probably a lot of that knowledge you gained was valuable to you as it went on.
Yes, yes, that needing to make a living and bring home the bacon was very, very important.
Understand. Now, did that link to some degree also to the institution as well, the Catholic institution, in terms of what they were teaching, and both above and below? In other words, the I think you called it the moral
undercurrent.
Exactly,
Yes,
moral
yes,
undercurrent.
the moral
Yes, that was your
undercurrent.
reference.
Well, I think religion is important, and I consider myself a religious, but only in a humanistic sense, not in a narrow theistic,
Gotcha.
limited to one sect. And I look at it in terms of, if you look at the word religion, it comes from the Latin religare, which means to bind together. Think of ligament. And it binds together people with similar beliefs. And I belong to a religion that's very inclusive, so this religion encompasses Christians, Jews, Buddhists, just about everybody, even atheists come together in the place that I call a church home.
Wonderful.
So that gives me a perspective also on you know, being with other people of different mindsets. I am required by my faith to respect the inherent worth and dignity of other people. And sometimes I need to be reminded of that. Sometimes worth and dignity is really well hidden. But I am required to, and so I do.
So it's essentially, it's about really respect for people.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And from what I can gather, it's kind of, what you're saying, it's really, it's a personal choice, and we really have an obligation in our society to respect that.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
We have an obligation to respect each other's searches.
I fully understand that. Now, what do you think influences your views on the issue of conservatism and liberalism, which are thrown around a lot these days? Do you see that as a distinctive feature, and how does that integrate into your life?
Right. Well, I consider myself a liberal, but I've just expressed a kind of religiosity that some would probably consider conservative. As far as power and corporate power, power in and of itself is neither a good nor an evil. It's neutral.
Sure.
But there's certainly many things you can do with power that are very good or very evil. I think whether it's government or religion or physical power, again, there's good and there's bad that can be done with some good things that government has done is Social Security,
Sure.
The establishment of national parks, Medicare, Medicaid. Those are all good things that power has enabled.
From the government.
From the government. As far as corporations, pensions, 401k matching, things like that are very good things
Absolutely.
that corporations can do. I think there is an imbalance now, and I think that growing gap of rich and poor is probably our biggest concern as a nation.
And I've been reading a lot that are saying it's the major problem we're facing in the world.
I think it is. I really
It's just
do.
creating a tremendous amount of conflict, anger, leading to hate, and really destabilizing.
Right.
A destabilizing factor throughout. So what is your orientation toward someone that's developing wealth?
I don't begrudge anyone developing wealth. I just want more people to be able to develop it.
Kind of an even playing field.
Right, right. And it's growing so disparate
Sure.
lately that,
Exactly.
that it's a real problem, climbing.
Exactly. Talk to us about some of the issues you see as important from the recent sessions of the
Okay.
legislature.
Well, I certainly support bills that enhance economic growth, of course, those that are building our infrastructure, roads, bridges. I think we need a 21st century mass transit system. I have a passion for attracting and retaining youth. I think the fact that we're the fourth oldest state in the nation is a problem for us. And we need youth desperately to have energy, to have vitality, and to bring innovation. And I think that's something we have to address in the legislature.
When you say the fourth oldest, what you're talking about is the average age of
Yes.
the nation, of the people in the
Population.
state.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. And while I may be one of those, I don't want everyone around me to be.
Yes, a lot of us are probably thinking in the same vein. What do you think of issues that are, you addressed it slightly when you talked about Social Security and Medicaid, which are really safety net issues. How do you see the issues of safety nets as playing in our society?
I think they're absolutely vital. I'm very pleased to see that funding was restored to not only safety net type things, children in need,
Right.
developmentally disabled, mentally ill. I'm very, very pleased to see that that funding was restored. I think it's essential. I have a sister with mental illness. And I can tell you, yes, there are people who abuse the system, but yes, there are also people who cannot work and cannot support themselves.
And who desperately need it.
And who desperately need it, right. I actually did a walk for them. This is NAMI, National Alliance for Mentally Ill, on Sunday. And I met a woman there who, on the contrary to those who abuse the system, she was telling me that she's been diagnosed, and she's been diagnosed correctly, and she's taking medication, and she's improving, and she's going off of Social Security, and is going to school to be an LNA and helping others in this position.
Oh, fantastic.
So, you don't hear about those stories as much as we probably should.
Yeah, we tend to hear a lot about the bad. We don't hear so
Right.
much about the good, which is unfortunate, to say the very least. And I take it's from a legislative perspective that part of it is the issue of both business and citizens really seeing us take steps toward responsible stewardship of our state.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we need to do just that. I think we need to, as individuals and as a legislature, show that we are responsible for ours.
Or otherwise, why would businesses come here?
Absolutely,
Gotcha.
absolutely.
What do you think we can do that can attract and, help to both attract and keep younger people here
I
in
think
this
it starts
state?
with education,
Mhm.
and that's why I'm so glad that the funding was restored. I think we've got to keep funding for higher education. I think for those who have gotten into debt, extreme debt because of the cost of higher ed, we should allow them to refinance, and I applaud Jean Shaheen for working along those lines. I think, but even with the education piece, there's affordable housing.
Oh, yes.
It's extremely difficult for young people to afford housing, and we need to address that at the legislative level to make sure that we can give accommodations for people with lower incomes and just starting out a chance to get moving. Again, I think mass transit would be a big help so that people can get to and from their jobs and their leisure activities without having to own a car. And the rail study will be back.
Oh, that's true, yes.
Rail study has been done and will be coming back to the legislature. And I look forward to seeing what they come back with and whether it's feasible for us to come on board there. I think it will be, and I think it'll be great for business.
Yeah, and that rail line, that study suggested, as I recall, a link between Boston and Manchester, a rail link between Boston and Manchester. Is that correct?
I think it's actually Lowell.
Oh, it's Lowland, but there already exists
Right.
between
It
Lowell
already
and Lowell.
exists between
Gotcha.
Lowell
So it
and
does-
Boston, so it would be
Does tie
wholly
all the way down to
to
DC.
DC, exactly.
Okay,
Exactly,
wonderful.
which would be really wonderful.
Kate, these past 2 years, you've been dominated by the issue, pardon, not you, we've been dominated by the issues of healthcare and associated Medicaid expansion. What are your thoughts of that?
I fully support Medicaid expansion. I think it brings millions of dollars into the economy. It brings thousands of jobs, and it brings tens of thousands of people into the healthcare system that had no access before.
Sure.
So it's a win-win, absolutely a win-win. Can we tweak it? Absolutely,
Of course.
but not toss it out.
Sure.
Not toss it out. We've needed it for a very, very long time. We've got it. People don't realize how much they need it. People don't even realize that they have it. They just think that they don't want Obamacare,
Right.
but they want health.
Of course.
So
Of course. Now, it also plays into the economy of the state as well, does it not?
absolutely, absolutely. Something like, oh gosh, millions into the state,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
but I don't know the numbers.
You mentioned a few things that you were happy to see from the last legislature. Were there actions that you are pleased that the state government has addressed?
Again, the education funding, absolutely. The keeping the funding for mental health and social services.
Uh-huh.
The R&D tax credit.
Yes.
Those businesses that I worked for
Sure.
were heavily involved in research.
Sure.
And I think it's absolutely the long-term perspective to invest in research and development. So to double that was a good move. The Corporate Tax Act, having been updated with the first time being in
Oh, yes.
first time in 20
20
years,
years, yeah.
that's
Business
certainly
Corporate
a
Act,
good
yes.
thing. Yes.
Corporations Act, yes, exactly.
So they've done a lot of good things. They're really moving in the right direction.
Gotcha. What are some of the issues you look forward to working on next session?
Minimum wage, bringing a reasonable minimum wage to the state, that
Uh-huh.
would be wonderful. I understand it would affect something like 76,000 people, give 76,000 people a raise, and that's a good thing. It would have an immediate impact, whereas a corporate tax reduction to billionaires would not be such an immediate thing. This would come right into our economy, and would be a benefit to everyone.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, as I understand it, the majority actually of those would be women. Is that true?
Yes, I understand 60% would be
Wow.
women.
That is a large
And
amount.
something like 72% are people up to age 75.
So it's Yeah, go ahead.
So our notion that it's teenagers bringing home spending money is really outdated, really outdated. This is the person putting oil in your car, and this is the woman serving you coffee when you go to work, or
Sure.
cutting your hair. I got my hair cut yesterday, and the tiny little woman was tiny in every little way except this.
oh, okay.
And I'm
Addition
thinking,
coming. Yes.
exactly, and I'm thinking to myself, I think everyone would rather support that child by paying the mother and father a decent wage than to give them food stamps or housing subsidies or other government aid.
Sure.
Doesn't it make sense to just pay them well in the first place?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, so what I'm hearing is you're saying that it's less than a theory, it's kind of real world policy.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And now I had heard, you'd mentioned when we spoke a little bit ago that before we had the interview, that there was some like $64 million that gets pumped into the state economy.
That's what I
from this.
understand.
What a
That's
huge,
what I understand. Absolutely.
huge chunk.
And could we use that immediately?
Yeah, and when you really think about it, when when a person has like 3 jobs and they still aren't making it, they still don't have a living wage.
That's not right.
Absolutely. And I assume that, well, and there was also a reference I heard that you were talking about, but I can't remember the exact details. There was something about we end up picking up the tab.
Oh, absolutely. We end up picking up the tab for any major corporation that decides that the American taxpayer should bear the difference between a good day's wage.
And how does the taxpayer end up paying that?
Oh, through public health. Public help through things like food stamps and
Sure.
and housing vouchers and programs that have to help the less fortunate.
Because they're already so far below the poverty line.
Exactly.
Gotcha. They would be starving the street instead.
Yeah.
Now, we've heard a great deal about Northern Pass, more in the north than down here, but where do you stand on that issue?
Yeah, I was up in the northern part of the state over the summer for a family reunion, and it's very hard to go very far without seeing the signs on no Northern Pass. And I can see why they're as upset as they are. I think we have to maintain, I'm an outdoors person. I think we have to maintain the natural beauty of the landscape. I think Jeb Bradley has a good proposal to bury the lines, and I understand they've done it in Maine and they're doing it in Vermont. So I absolutely think that's what we should do here.
Excellent, excellent. I'm sure there's a lot of people up there who would love to hear that too. And it is obviously doable. Even
Exactly.
though a lot of people are saying, no, it is doable.
Right.
Okay, so let's go on to your hope to be elected to the state Senate. Why do you want to be elected?
Mostly so we can keep moving forward. All of these good things that have been accomplished, I want to keep rolling them forward.
Sure.
And I remember very well back to 2010 when people got lazy and didn't come out and vote, and some people got in that really took us backwards. And I know that some of those people are eager to come back in and do it again. So we cannot let that happen. I really want us to keep moving forward progressively. I also think I have the right balance of real-world experience and academic knowledge to be able to make good judgments in a fair and reasonable manner. And I love a challenge.
I think this would be one. Yes. Kate, we've taken the time to address a number of questions for the audience, but is there anything else you would like to speak to? The camera is, as they say, yours.
My pledge to the people is that I will be honest and forthright, and I look forward to a vote on November 4th, and I promise to earn your vote over the next 2 years.
Kate, thank you very much for your time and willingness to run for office. I know a lot of people just assume that people should drop everything and do it, and it's a great and glorious experience, but it's a lot of work. We all know that. So thank you for that, and thanks for joining us today on Issues and Candidates. Everybody, good night.